So recently in Poland, they've had the foreign minister is sitting there saying that Russia is more of a threat to Poland than ISIS is. And it says the reason why they say that is because Russia can wipe Poland off the map. It is an existential threat. Russia has shown aggression. Russia has actually dominated Poland in the past. And so that's fascinating. I grew up in Warsaw, Kentucky. And so I grew up in Warsaw, Kentucky, and it's named after the Polish revolutionaries who were fighting against the Russian imperialists. And Warsaw used to be called Fredericksburg in 1830. They changed it. So now it's Warsaw, and it's Polish. It's Polish in its origins. Now, usually Polish, I don't know. I guess I don't hear many Americans talking about Poland very much. Usually it's dumb Polack jokes. That's the only thing I know about Poland. And it kind of is fucked up because I know a lot of people that say that they're Germans. They're German Americans. And I think it's actually because they fucking like Hitler. But Nietzsche said that the only reason Germany was, of any value is because of its Polish blood. And so here's a Polack joke. A bar customer asked the bartender if he wanted to hear a Polack joke. And the bartender pointed to a large man at the end of the bar and said, well, he's Polish. And then he pointed to a burly policeman at the door and he said, well, he's Polish. Now, think about whether or not you want to tell that joke because I'm Polish too. And then the customer says, well, I guess I won't tell the joke after all. I'd have to explain it 3 times. For some reason, this is actually a cultural piece. Right now I am living in, I want to say Bronson, okay, in the city limits of Bronson, but there's also Burnside, which isn't just a mile away, and then there's Somerset, which is about 3 miles away, and it's all in Pulaski County. Pulaski. So in Pulaski County is where I live, and I was born and raised, or at least, I don't know, I was actually in the hills, but I was schooled mostly in Warsaw, Kentucky. But Pulaski County was named after a Polish nobleman, soldier, military commander, and he came over and helped America fight the American Revolution. He had actually saved George Washington's life. He was recommended by Benjamin Franklin. He fought against the Russian domination against his country. I want to mention something about Burnside. Burnside was actually named after Ambrose Burnside. During the Civil War, Ambrose Burnside was a Civil War general, but he was also the governor, U.S. Senator from Rhode Island. He took over Burnside and then named after himself, and so it was the Burnside Camp. And Burnside had these like crazy-ass sideburns that would come up like this, and it would go around his face. And so because of that, because he had those sideburns, Burnside, that's where sideburns came from, was Burnside. They just reversed the role. So that's, I think history matters. If you're going to live in a place, I think it matters. I mean, we have the Burnside thing, Sideburns, so we got a city that's named after a U.S. general. A lot of these Confederate racists around here, but we're named after a Union general. And the Sideburns, anytime you talk about Sideburns, it comes from Ambrose Burnside, so I'd assume everybody there's got sideburns. So Pulaski is actually named after this man, Casimir Pulaski, and he was killed. He was mortally wounded by grape shot. And grape shot is essentially it's just like a shotgun, only they look like grapes. So it's like a big shotgun. It just shoots a whole bunch of fucking bullets out. And then he died. So that's there was one mention. Jed Bartlett in the West Wing said that he was a Polish brigadier general who vanquished the Russian and Prussian military, then came to the colonies and commanded our cavalry during the American Revolution. So again, this is a Polish, a Polish origins. So I grew up in Warsaw. I'm in Pulaski County. And how many of these hillbillies know about the Polish origins? They probably say, "Oh, dumb Polack." So Casimir Pulaski was injured, later died from a grape shot inflicted wound in the Battle of Savannah, Georgia, and during the American Revolutionary War. So I guarantee you there's like hillbillies around here like, goddamn, damn Polack don't know damn nothing, I swear to God. And you don't even know where fucking Pulaski comes from. You'll be like, oh, I remember it was like some Polish something another. And that was a Polish fucking military hero. And he had no descendants, so unfortunately, nobody, lives to talk about Mr. Pulaski's accomplishments today. Poland is an Eastern European country on the Baltic Sea known for its medieval architecture, Jewish heritage, and hearty cuisine. In the city of Krakow, 14th century Wawel Castle rises above the medieval old town, home to cloth. So Donald Trump has actually been saying some sort of crazy things when it comes to the world stage. He had recommended that Japan and Saudi Arabia join the nuclear club. Yeah, let's pass nuclear bombs out to everybody, including Saudi Arabia and Japan. And so that's super fucked up. He also said shit about NATO. And NATO was created to establish a European bloc that would counter Russian aggression. So the Soviet Union collapsed. Russia's still a country, but all those Eastern European and Western, I guess, Asian countries like Poland or Lithuania or I don't know, some of those, Eastern European countries will be protected by NATO, by the bloc of NATO, and it's a military alliance. So an attack on one is an attack on us all. Auschwitz is in Poland. It's important, or that it makes sense when the Russian minister says that Russia is a bigger threat to them than ISIS. Of course they are. You had Casimir Pulaski, who had fought against the Prussian and Russian militaries, and then you had the Polish revolutionaries in 1830, which is where Warsaw, Kentucky got its name from. And then in World War II, you had also, Germany and Russia both invaded it. So Russia has clearly many times shown that it's got to fucking invade Poland for some reason. And it's Auschwitz. Anne Frank died in Poland. And so that's where the concentration camp was actually put in, or where the location of the concentration camp was in Poland. So I think I swear to God, I probably will never tell another fucking Polack joke now after just reading the origins of where the Polish jokes come from. Some say that it has to do with the border regions of Silesia, suggesting Polack jokes didn't originate in Nazi Germany, but as an outgrowth of regional jokes rooted in historical and social class differences. Maybe that's where they started. I agree, but the fan that flamed, pushed the flames was Nazi Germany. So it was attempted to justify the Nazi crimes against the ethnic Poles, because there's no such thing as a Polack. They call themselves Poles. So we're the ones that call them Polack. Polack itself is a fucking a racial slur. It's like nigger or maybe Mick or Wop, some of those. The other one is because of the Russian aggression, a lot of Polish people came to America, and they're here. So because of the stereotypes that came from the old world to the new world, and when they got here, they were different, right? They spoke a different language, looked different, had different cultures. The Americans were racist to them, and these degrading stereotypes were far from homeless. The constant derision, often publicly disseminated through the mass media, caused serious identity crises, feelings of inadequacy, and low self-esteem for many Polish Americans. So during the Cold War, despite sympathy in the U.S. for Poland being subjected to communism, negative stereotypes about Polish Americans endured, mainly because of Hollywood TV media involvement. So that's no good. The reason why I'm talking about this is because I am German, I'm Prussian and Austrian and Bohemian and a whole bunch of mixtures of, German bloodlines. Let's see, Prussian, and Bavarian, Austrian, Bohemian, and Prussian, Bavarian, Austrian, Bohemian, and African. So those are the 5 ethnicities that I claim for myself due to the family tree from Ancestry.com, research that I did. But if you want to go back further, like Nietzsche said, the greatness of Germany came from Poland. So what is Poland? Okay, so Poland's got a lot of things going for it, right? It's got, let's see here. I probably should have pulled this up, but it's got a very high ranking on the Human Development Index, gradually improving economic freedom. Poland is a democratic country with an advanced high-income economy, a high quality of life, and a very high standard of living. So Madame Curie, who did all that radiation studies, world-renowned chemist and two-time Nobel Prize recipient, Maria Sklodowska Curie established Poland's Radium Institute in 1925. There's over 40 research and development centers, and 4,500 researchers make Poland the biggest research and development hub in Central and Eastern Europe. Companies choose Poland because of the availability of highly qualified labor force, presence of universities, supportive authorities, and the largest market in East Central Europe. So that's great, right? Madame Curie was from there. There's outstanding Polish mathematicians, the Lowell School of Mathematics, Stefan Banach, Stanislaw Mazur, Hugo Steinhaus, Stanislaw Ulem. I mean, there's a lot of smart people, a lot of smart shit coming out of fucking Poland for people to be called them dumb. We have Nicholas Copernicus. So Copernicus was the astronomer who formulated the heliocentric model of the solar system that placed the sun rather than the earth at its center. And it was, published in 1543. So this is before Galileo. Galileo read Copernicus and says, "Oh, this is right." It was the Polacks that said that the entire universe circled around the solar system revolved around the sun instead of revolving around the earth. And that was, that was blasphemy. Unfortunately, Galileo had lived in house arrest because that's what he thought, that Earth went around the sun instead of the sun going around Earth. So that was the Polish. The Polish people are the ones that came up with the heliocentric model, the helio, which is the sun. It was the Poles who come up with the heliocentric model of the solar system. 96.7% of Polish citizens declare to be Poles. 97.8% declare they speak Polish at home. So they're through and through Poles. I gotta quit saying Polacks. That's embedded in my brain. That's ridiculous. I'm more educated, I would say, than the majority of these dumb, backwards, fucking toothless fuckers around here. Poland's the only country in the world to prohibit corporal punishment. So they're against child abuse. That's fucking amazing. They also have a history of being a sanctuary for the Jewish people. So the history of Jews in Poland exemplifies peaceful coexistence of a nation with a particular ethnic group. That being said, they don't seem to be very tolerant of homosexuals, which is unfortunate. But let's see. The currency is the Polish zloty. The population is 38.5 million. President is Duda. Old president. Joseph Conrad, the author of The Heart of Darkness, Apocalypse Now, where Apocalypse Now came from. His father was Polish, so he comes from Polish blood. All Germans come from Polish blood, so I want to find, just like a bunch of celebrities. Here's a quick, they just celebrated 1,025 years of Christianity, and that's what supposedly modernized it. I don't know, maybe. I mean, if you're like a true Christian, believe in tolerance, love, peace. But here, Poland, the sixth biggest country in the EU with a $425 billion economy, somehow managed to escape the worst of the recession of 2008 to 2015. That fact alone would make it one of the economies most worth watching, not just in the Central and Eastern Europe CEE region, but in all of Europe. But it turns out there are many other reasons to take this country of 39 million people pretty seriously as a near-shoring, helped by some good long-term sound thinking by its domestic leadership, both just after and the subsequent to the end of communism 25 years ago. There's a sound infrastructure for growth here, both in Poland, both physical, legal, and educational. On the latter front, Poland does very well in educational attainment, coming often surprisingly far ahead of its global competitors in everything from reading skills at 14th in the world rankings, ahead of most of the Nordics, the UK, and the US, to the university graduate volumes, with some 400,000 produced annually. So dumb Polacks are actually better and smarter than, you know, America and the Scandinavian countries. So that's, you make fun of Polacks, you know, look at your damn self. Maybe we should just stick to the blondes, okay? Maybe it's just, blondes aren't very, now they're graduates, 1 in 10 are coming out bearing diplomas in highly employable fields like engineering, manufacturing, and construction, with an even more noteworthy 20,000 plus graduating in science, mathematics, and computing. A string of administrations have invested in a network of 20 so-called information and telecommunication academic centers, clearly modeled on a highly successful Indian model. These centers are busy developing the skill sets of 150,000 potential IT, computer science, and telecommunication employees. Meanwhile, that remarkable economic engine seems to be turning over pretty well, too. In January, Reuters reported how Poland's economy grew at its fastest pace in 4 years in 2015, driven mainly by domestic demand that analysts expect will be sustained this year despite external risk. So, you know, Poland, man, the more I talk about Poland, the more I want to go visit it. We all love Poland. It says that 17 Nobel Peace Prize were won by Polish people, by Poles. The name Poland originates from the tribe Polani, which means people living in open fields. There's some Slavic, I think the language is Slavic, and Slavic is slave. So, I mean, I feel like Polish people have been probably picked on a whole bunch throughout the fucking years, and it's not fair. When you have recently Bernie Sanders said that some of the European countries should start to pick up the tab on its military defense, and he's absolutely right. But he's not talking about undoing NATO. That's what Donald Trump said. NATO is irrelevant. We don't need NATO. The problem is terrorism. The problem isn't Russian aggression. But as soon as you lower the walls to, I mean, Putin loves Trump. As soon as you lower those walls to stopping Russian aggression, that's when it'll happen. They already took over Crimea. First country to have a constitution, Poland. The first country in Europe to have a constitution was Poland. It's the second in the world. And guess who doesn't have a constitution? The UK. Watching Home Alone is a Christmas tradition in Poland. When foreign movies are dubbed for Polish TV, one man reads all the parts, even those of women and children. Viewers hear the original English soundtrack faintly in the background. Okay. I don't know if all these are good things about Poland. The last thing I want to mention is just that NATO thing. So, I mean, just think about that NATO thing. That almost seems, I don't know, I'm starting to feel a little bit like Chris Hitchens. But I'm older than 30, so, you know, I'm not as starry of an idealist, you know, starry-eyed idealist as I used to be. But Ukraine was fucking awesome when Russia tried to infiltrate Ukraine, and you had all them Ukrainians kicking those cops' asses.